Here.
Ms. Foster?
Here.
Mike Considine?
Here.
Andy Rogers?
Here.
All right, that's all present, and that's a quorum. All right, the first order of business is to discuss and possibly approve the minutes of the August 9th special meeting.
September 23rd.
I had one laying there in front of you.
Okay,
Yep, there you go.
yeah, this was the minutes.
Yeah, that is the minutes, yep.
Okay. Do I hear any discussion?
Make a motion to approve minutes?
Second?
All right, motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. None heard, the motion's carried. All right, we have enter a public hearing.
Need a motion to enter?
And
We need a motion to enter.
I motion we enter.
a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, the motion carries. All right, we are in a public hearing, and Butler Homes LLC is requesting coverage allowance of 36.5% and reduced setback areas to 17.5%. And the allowable lot coverage, according to this, the zoning coverage is 30%, and the proposed is 34.5%.
Gerald,
No.
Yes. I believe that first article is the carryover from last session, correct? That is no longer
Yes.
applicable because the lot's been split.
Right.
Yes.
So we really need, so like, will you just deny this one and move on? Or like, just define it as, because the next two are the split lots, right?
No, the first set is the 201 South Edith. Oh, yes, you're correct. The first one is just telling you what they're requesting for that address. The second one will take it down to each address for the variances. See, the
Oh,
first
okay.
just tells you what they're requesting.
Gotcha.
I
The
got it.
second one
Okay.
splits it down to each of the addresses.
Yes.
And if you notice, there was an address change. MUB gave it a different address than what was recently listed on the November 4th agenda.
Okay. I was just trying to make it more confusing.
And a point of order, Mr. Chairman, is that it's actually zoned RD, so the allowable coverage is 35%, and they're asking for an increase from 35 to 36.5 on this one.
Right. Okay, is there any discussion on changing the lot coverage from 35 to 36.5%?
I live at 110 South Edith.
Could you approach the mic, please?
Ed Dent, live at 110 South Edith. And my understanding is wanting to build duplexes on these lots. Is that correct? Well, I don't feel like we need any more rentals in that area. We've got plenty. You know, there's a lot of people building new homes, renovating, and it's really helping the area. I've lived there for 30 years, and it's better than it's been in forever. And I just really am opposed to rentals going in. They're not needed. There's plenty of rentals in that area.
Okay.
Would you like to discuss that?
I have no issue with homes, single-family homes, but rentals, area didn't need it.
Pryor,
That
you have
area
the
does not
opportunity to go, and I can bring your case tonight.
As you know, we're here, the Butler Homes, we're trying to build up the area in the community for homes, for rooftops, and there is a dire need for rentals. We
Yeah.
have our own rentals, and we get calls every week needing more, and Wilkerson Agency covers a lot of the rentals, and they're calling us all the time, do you have anything? So Pryor needs it, and we bought these lots from the city of Pryor, and with the knowledge, y'all knew
Yeah, with the
when we
intentions
bought
to
them,
build
with
on 'em.
the intentions for rental and houses, and we're doing both. But this is an area where there's already duplexes in that area, and we just feel it's nice to finish that out around that park.
Yeah, it'll improve the area, raise their property value.
You guys just had this rezoned last week, right? Or
Yes.
2 weeks ago?
Yes. So we did what y'all asked, we needed to split the lot.
Was this, I can't remember, was the surrounding zoning, is it RD as well?
Yes,
Okay, so the zoning did not change, it just,
no, just the size of the lot.
So I think there shouldn't be any argument there. All we're needing is just the coverage, because, I mean, we've got the smallest duplex, single car garage, two bedroom, one bath, or they're under 1,000 square foot, 900. And so it's not gonna, like, they're not gonna be big families in there, it's gonna be individually for the retired people or a single parent with a child, and
and single story or double story?
single.
Single, 2-bedroom
Yeah.
per unit.
We built the exact same one on the corner of 7th and Adair. We're building two on the corner of 4th and Van.
Yep.
That's, like I said, we've got the smallest one to go on there, and we just need the increased coverage space. That's all we've got, I guess.
So if we're done with the public hearing, we can exit.
I think so. If nobody has any other comments to,
Did the city have,
As staff, I will respond to items 4 or 4.1 and 2. The public hearing is for the public, so not for staff's input. Unless you ask me a specific question, I can answer it, but I'll make a presentation on the specifics after the public hearing is closed.
all right,
I move we exit the public hearing?
Second.
all right, we have a motion to leave the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries.
Mike, did you second that one?
Yeah, I guess so. Chris might have beat me to it. I don't know.
It's okay, Ted.
Thank you.
So we have exited the public hearing. And now we are ready to discuss any
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Thank you. Members of the board, under item 4.1, the item pertaining to the coverage of this lot, there are 2 items pertinent to these 2 lots. And as was indicated earlier, the first step of this process was to split a large lot last month that was approved by this board went from 15,000 square feet to two 7,500 square foot lots. The issues about coverage and rear yard setback appears on both lots, based on the floor plan and the house plan that was submitted by the developer. We consider that both of those items going from 35% coverage to 36.5% coverage is pretty minor. But we do want to continue to look at these on a case-by-case basis without making any kind of blanket approval. It really comes into the particular site and what we're looking at. Most of these projects that you're going to see are what we call infill projects, projects where they're putting back something in a lot that hasn't been developed before, or they're putting back something in a lot where an older home or a dilapidated home has been taken off. And so we're filling in on parcels of ground that have had issues or having issues at this point. In this particular case, both lots have the same issue. Both lots will be served by water, sewer, gas, and electric. There's no additional easements that would be needed for either lot. So the only issues for the development of these lots is, are they compatible with the zoning that's in that area? And the answer to that, in our opinion, the answer to that question is yes. The area is zoned RD, and under RD zoning, the size of these lots are actually a little bit larger than the platted lots that surround them, even though the coverage is greater, and the setback or rear setback area goes from 20 feet to 17.5 feet. There's still a backyard. So the staff's recommendation on both of these cases is to allow the variances for the lots. And I'll answer any questions you might have about this.
All right, do we have any discussion? Having heard,
Well, I do have a question. Steve, what would, so like the next person who comes up with a variance from 35 to 36, what would be the criteria that we would deny that request, or that your office would not suggest the variance?
Again, we would look at it on a case-by-case basis. If the request is not compatible with the surrounding properties, for instance, they're looking at coverage of the lot that isn't compatible with the other houses that are there, they're taking up the entire lot.
Oh.
There's no other incidents of that, then we would look at it on an overall basis. I can't really say that, that I would ever disapprove a 35 to 36% or a 35 to 36.5% simply on the number. I think that this particular criteria is a goal. It's a livability standard more than it is like a side setback or a front setback determination. Those kind of setbacks are more than aesthetic. They're emergency access, future accessibility for front yards and the standards of living. But the percent of coverage is a livability standard. We've talked about this on an overall basis. I think that someone that wants to cover the entire lot up, that's not what we're looking for. But I guess the answer to your question is we'd have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. 1% is not very much.
The only
increase, but I can't say that, we're gonna take 35 and go to 36, and somebody wants to go to 37, and then before you know it, you're up to 40-45%.
Yeah.
That's not the intent here. It's a case-by-case basis.
'Cause the only thing that makes me a little uneasy is this is a very expensive process, as you guys have known. And I worry about having two different standards of the people that are actually going to go through the process versus the people that are going to try to go directly based on the code. And I think, well, if it's one of those situations where we are just going to say a small variance, 2% variance is negligible anyway, it's like, well, we should probably handle that in city code. Or just say, right off the bat, we're gonna handle it. That's the only thing that makes me a little uneasy about some, especially in the design stage, when we're not talking about something that's already been built, it's still on the design side. But, I mean, I could definitely see your guys' point, which, you've got a certain floor plan, you've got a certain, things.
Can I say something?
Oh, absolutely.
Like he said, like.
Just go to the microphone.
Yeah,
We can't hear, the public can't hear her.
The base by, base by base, on each thing is like the backyards. I see what he's getting at is it may be the same percentage on a different location, but if your backyard, all the houses are set here and we're wanting to do it way back here is when he's gonna say no. But ours, like he said, all the surroundings are it has like the same backyard.
So on the variance application, you have under variances, like a list of 4 things that, to kind of the cases that need to exist. Which one of those cases do you think applies in this situation?
On the variance?
Yeah. No, on the application, like it
Yeah,
says,
I got the application here, so that way I can. So, are you talking about this? The
yeah,
application?
the second page. The second page.
With
What,
hardship.
what he's talking about is where it says variances and you must prove a hardship.
Yeah.
Or one of those 4 things.
Well, the hardship is that we cannot go smaller because then you're not gonna have anybody that's gonna wanna live in it because it makes for too small of a living space. And for us, for building out the community, we wanna make it, we're here to also, make money. We're not gonna wanna build and and not be able to make a profit also.
Yeah.
Um,
So like one of the things that it says is it has to be unique. Like the situation has to be unique. And so my question is, if you have the exact same lot size pop up again, are you going to come to the board with another exact same duplex and say, I want to put this duplex on this exact same lot size?
If that's, we might. We've got more property in town, but the 30% coverage, I don't think, was not in place when all the houses around it were being built. And that's the issue is you want it to all look alike and all of a sudden you take this 30%, you're gonna have this little bitty house in the middle of all these others. And we've got that situation next.
What's the
So-
likelihood of that percentage happening again?
When you're already in an existing area. It's the existing area. If we were a brand new development and you said 30% coverage, then we're gonna have to build to that. We understand that.
Yeah.
But we're stepping into an older development. You don't wanna build something that looks out of place.
Yeah. The problem with that though is that whenever the new codes get installed, any new building, even if it's on an existing lot,
You're gonna have,
still has to be built to the new codes.
you're gonna have some funky looking stuff out there.
Yeah.
So, that, like he said, a case by case basis, do you want it to look okay, fit in the community? You don't want something that stands out and looks fun. They'll be looking at us like, what are they building there? We don't want something that looks, so we're not going out, like you said, utility easements, we're not, it's still 17-foot backyard. We're talking about less than what is it, foot? 17 inches?
foot and a half.
A foot and a half. Yeah, so,
And this is not a precedent. We had a ruling on
Well-
home that's about the same kind of.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that does kind of, because like, it's only the people who want to go through the process and pay the $600 to get this are going to be able to get it.
and that's because it's important to us. It's important
That's
to
true.
us what we're doing here from Pryor. Both of us are, I was born and raised here. He's been here since he was a kid. Travis, born and raised here, and so we're here to improve Pryor. And that was Travis's promise when we bought these lots.
Yep.
But we've got to make it where, it
It's
works.
profitable for us too.
Yeah.
Something we can rent instead of a single or 1-bedroom duplex, gotta be.
And we've been, most of the stuff that we build is long-term rentals. The same people been in them, and for a long time that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 8 right now that we've built, and Almost the same people have been in 75% of them since we built them. They're 5 years old. So, I mean, that's what we want for Pryor. We want to help.
Yeah, the upkeep on the duplexes, every time somebody does move out,
And with
It's
some of
back
the
up.
other property that we've purchased from the city all at the same time, because I think we got 7 lots, that will hold a house, we've got house plans for them. But these just weren't in a place or a position that a house fit on it. It was a long skinny lot.
yeah.
So that's why we came with 2 duplexes, and because of the park area and where it was at. And the other duplexes are all right along the road by it. So, anyway, that's.
Thank you. I guess my only, my only statement on that would be that the precedent we're setting with both the last case and this one is that there are no specific needs for it. And we're allowing it, so the precedent would be that anyone else without a specific need, we really would have to rubber stamp it and go 35 to 30 within that variance, because without proving a need in this case, we're allowing the same thing that happened next time. But at the same time, I understand it's 35 or 36. You know, you're talking
Mhm.
small numbers.
Yeah.
Well, it's my feeling that what we're dealing with here is a vacant lot in an existing neighborhood.
And that's our
And
hardship.
to make use of that lot, to improve that lot, it's difficult to find something that will fit on it without giving a little here and a little there.
Kind of, but the choice between a duplex and a single house is not a hardship. Because like the hardship is trying to put a multifamily house on the lot. But at the same time, it's small numbers. So, I don't know. I really don't have a problem with it. It's one of those things I think we do need to be wary that it's,
Well, it's
It's gonna
something
happen
that we
again.
need to
be great
be
if the city.
careful of, and make sure that anytime that we do a variance like this, that there's a good reason for it. Is there any more discussion? Do I hear a motion to take action?
I'll make a motion to
this.
approve
You actually have 2 items here, so you'll want to make sure you make a motion for
Both, yeah.
pertaining
For
to.
Item one.
One under item 4 pertaining to the coverage, and then the separate motion for the.
All right, do I hear a motion
I'll make,
for item 1?
I'll make a motion for item 1, both A and B to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. Okay, on item 2, on the rear setback areas, do I hear a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve item 2, A and B.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, so the motion carries. So item 1 and item 2 have carried and approved. And it looks like we have a separate item, so we need to enter a public hearing again for item 5. Do I hear a motion to enter a public hearing?
So moved.
Second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None heard. So we're now in public hearing. And the applicant is again Butler Homes. And this is a lot in Block 2 of East Plains 4th, in addition to the incorporated town of Pryor Creek. And I believe that This one is the plot plan is shown on this drawing here. And that is 1509 South Oklahoma Street. And this is in a single-family residential area. And the action requested is a coverage allowance increase to fit required restrictions, square footage of 1,950 square feet. So if you would like to,
So we've been building in the East Plains area. We've got four that we've already got there, and this one is on the east side of Oklahoma Street, and it is a very narrow lot. It's not very deep. So our hardship is the restrictions and covenants say we have to build a 1,950 square feet
Now, that's the restriction covenant from
for East Plains.
East Plains.
So that was when we applied for the permit, and it came back and said, oh, it's over the 30% coverage. Well, we cannot build a 1,950 square foot house on that lot and be in the 30%. We can't do both. So I said, does that mean we don't have to go by the restrictions? No, we have to go by the restrictions. And with all the houses around it are all the same. They're all 1,950 square feet. They've been there for a long time. This lot's been empty for a long time. And so your all's requirement is new, and that's, not how the other houses were built. So it took us a lot, because the lot is right there on a bend. It's at an angle if you look at the plat. So to get that 35 foot, I think it's a 35
This
foot.
is Oklahoma Street right here, yeah, setback.
So we went through, our architect worked and worked and worked to get a house that would fit on there, to get a 2-car garage to be like the others that are in that area. And we're within all the setback lines. It's just the 30% coverage that we're not able to meet. I never thought about bringing an aerial photo of all the other houses, because it's gonna be set back exactly like the other houses, the same in the back. And any questions?
all right, do you have any
Not for the voters.
questions? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to exit the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, so the motion carries. Have now exited the public hearing. So, what is the coverage?
Are we on the next item?
Yes.
Public hearing?
Item
Okay.
6.
As you can see by the site plan that was supplied by the developer, this lot has a odd back lot line. It has an angle in it. fact, it has a pretty substantial angle in it. If you would take that lot line from corner to corner and go straight across, they wouldn't have any issues with this particular lot. There's probably a reason why this lot is the last one in this subdivision to develop, because of its odd back lot line. So the percent of coverage is an issue pertinent to the distance from the proposed single-family home to this angle point. And the distance that they are asking for, as you can see, the rear area, they've got a requirement of 20 feet. On both sides or both corners of the house, they far exceed that 20-foot requirement. It's only right in that apex of that angle are they at 21 and a half feet. So they're just beyond that point. Is this house about as big a house as you could put on this particular lot? The answer to that question, in my opinion, is yes. The hardship is the size of the lot and the 1,950 square feet that is stipulated by the POA. This percentage of coverage going from 30% to 35.5% is getting out there. We're moving to that point. This particular house is not what I would call an extravagant house. It's the size of house that they've been building in East Plains for the last few years, and the older homes that are out there across the street are of the same or equal size, if not larger. So they do fall under the criteria of the hardship because of the shape of the lot. It's shallow, plus it's got this angle in the middle of it. So staff had looked at it as the last lot in a development that, much like an infill lot, and there's no setback issues here, so the house is not going to look out of place either in the front, back, or either side. So staff's recommendation is to allow this property to be developed to its customary size of the other houses around it.
Can I clarify, that was 34.5 or 35.5?
It's actually, on my letter, it says 34.5%, but the actual coverage of the house, or the actual size of the house, the way our code reads is the area under the roof. Now, there's a lot of ways that people, somebody say it's a 1,950 square foot house, but when you add the garage, you add the covered porches, you add other areas to the house, you actually get an area under the roof that's a little over 2,945 square feet. So there's a lot of ancillary areas that for marketability standards, they call it a whatever size house this is. I'm not sure if it's a 2,000 square foot house, but for marketability. But our code defines it as area under the roof, and so we look at that as that standpoint. We don't discriminate between a garage area and a kitchen, or a garage area and a three-sided covered porch. So under the roof line, a patio is not included, a gazebo is not included. In fact, we don't count front porches or back porches that are open on two sides or more. So even though there may be a roof line over the top of it, but that's a convention that we have adopted to better determine somebody looking at the house. What we don't want, and let me step back one here, and I'm going to talk in general. And it's not the item of this agenda, or this specific item, but I want to make this point. It has been suggested that these percentages of lot coverages, both the 30%, 35% numbers, which were until we developed the new Unified Development Code, we only had one criteria for residential zoning. That would be what would be the equivalent of RS 70. We just had, it was a single family RS zoning. So 8,000 square foot lot, it was a 30% coverage. That's the way this was prior to the development of the UDO code. The UDO acknowledged or set up the provision that we do have a need for smaller lots. And in fact, it goes all the way down to 35, what's called an RS 35, which are really small lots. Nobody has made a suggestion wanting to put in houses or single family houses or anything else with an RS 35 zoning. But we do have several developments that are moving forward in various stages of development with the RS50 criteria. RS50 criteria is basically 6,000 square foot lots. And so with the development of these smaller lots, also came the possibility of ending up looking at a top of a residential neighborhood and literally being able to walk from house to house. That's probably being too literal, but your house tips get very close together. And so there's been suggestions made that we need to be looking at liberalizing those coverage areas so that we get more house on the lot. Well, the intent of the RS50 zoning and the RS35 zoning is not to, literally cover up the entire properties with under larger homes that have no yards and no livability. The intent is to have that livability space. People still have a backyard. People still have a front yard. So they're intended to be smaller houses, smaller footprints for houses. Goes along with these different zoning requirements. This particular area is basically an infill project. It was platted before under the old code that we had, and so it was platted as 8,000 square foot lots, or in this case 8,200 square foot lot. But in any addition, we want things to look the same. We want things to have a continuity to it. We don't want somebody to come in and put in a large home in an area where they've had small starter homes, patio home type scenarios, only because that house is what somebody has asked for. That's not a hardship as far as the city's concerned. We're looking at the livability situation. Just as we talked about before, this site, this house matches the footprint and the type of houses, size of houses that it surrounds. So it's not a sore thumb scenario. It's not something that's going in that is not compatible with the neighborhood. It just so happens that this particular lot, with its odd configuration, its chunk that's taken out of the back of the property, makes the lot not as marketable, and makes the lot something that if you put something in there that matched that lot, keeping all of the information the same, would be a house that looks out of place. And so we're looking at these things on a case by case basis.
I have a question for you, Steve.
Yeah.
So you said it was the POA that is the.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the East Plains 4 has private covenants, and those covenants pertain to all the lots about size of houses, amount of brickwork that they can have on the facade, et cetera, et cetera.
So in the case of a homeowners association having a covenant that interferes with city code, what do these covenants, what are the abilities for the homeowners to appeal to the covenant itself?
Well, one, I'll answer that question. One, as a city, we do not enforce private covenants. That's not, if somebody came up to the city and said, somebody's putting this 500, 1,500 square foot house in here, that's not according to private covenants. That's not a city enforceable covenant. That is a civil action that's done through the POA association. So their process, if they wanted to put a house in that was less than, for instance, the minimum square footage that stated in their POA, they would have to make an application to the Property Owners Association to do much what they're doing today, which is basically request to be able to put in a smaller home, much like they're doing with the city.
What would be our safety for a homeowners association to put higher requirements that interfere with our city code? Like if a homeowner association came out with a blank new plats and said minimum size of houses, and it didn't, and it interfered with our code, since we don't enforce city covenants, then everyone who bought that lot then would be able to say, I'm trying to meet the covenant, but I also have to get a variance on the.
Yeah. And I want to make sure I understand the question. What's the question that you want me to answer?
Well, it is would this open that up? Would this open it up to a developer of a?
I think the issue here is that we're in the beginnings of the UDO. I mean, yeah, we've implemented it a few years ago, but in essence, we're in the infancy of that. We're still feeling those growth pains. These plats that were platted years ago and had covenants on them were in compliance with the old code. There was no conflict. So as we transition from the old code to the new code, we have these setbacks, if you will, where what was allowed under the old code and stipulated in those POA private covenants may be in conflict with the new code regarding that particular area. And so we're gonna have to look at those on a case-by-case basis. What we're doing today for properties, residential properties that are coming into the city and going through the platting process is we are going through not only the public covenants pertaining to that property, but we're going through the private covenants to make sure that those subdivisions are not being in violation of city codes, that they're not putting something in there that creates that hardship that they're facing right now.
That answers my question.
All right, is there any other discussion on that? It looks, well, it's easy looking at the property. You can see where the problem is there on the, yeah. It's that the lines are straight and the street curves, so and that one lot just happens to be where instead of making the point at the corners of the lot, they made it in the center of the lot, which is what is causing this problem.
I don't have a problem since the intent of the coverage law is for repeatability among the houses. And since this was a
Right.
lot that was platted out before the UDO.
Agreed.
I don't see a problem with that.
And since they are intending to put a house on the lot that is in conformance with the surrounding area with the neighboring houses. All right, do I hear any motion to approve this
I motion.
variance? Do I hear a second?
A second.
All those in favor of approving this variance motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign, none heard. So the motion carries. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning,